Xinyan is probably the most underrated character in Genshin Impact. Anywhere you look on social media or in any Genshin subcommunities, people will pretend like Xinyan isn't even a character, talking about how she doesn't do any damage and her shield isn't strong. Today I'm here to talk about why Xinyan is so heavily misunderstood and what actually makes her a fantastic unit. At the end of the video, there's going to be a short Xinyan showcase that shows her true potential, but I highly suggest you watch from start to finish just to soak in all the information. Oh, and if this video helps you at all, make sure to leave a comment letting me know. So first I want to talk about why Xinyan is good and what's actually misunderstood about her kit. Essentially, her elemental skill is a shield, but it's super adaptive. In fact, it's actually the most adaptive shield in the entire game, because depending on how hard the content is that you're doing or how many enemies you're facing, the shield can level up and become stronger, which makes it one of the most flexible shields in the entirety of Genshin Impact. As you can see here, it has 3 levels of absorption, and these 3 levels of absorption will directly affect how much damage you can take before the shield breaks. Some players will say to just build Zhongli or Diona or Noelle, but the thing is, Xinyan is the only pyro shielder in the entire game, which makes her really unique. It also deals damage over time. You can see the dot right here, and now it's not actually a lot of damage, and a lot of people complain about that too, but the thing is that when Dendro comes out, it's going to become so much stronger because of the burning reaction. You guys know the burning reaction is already in the game, and when you combo her with Dendro units, she's going to make sure they're always taking damage when you have her shield up, which is very valuable. The shield duration is 12 seconds and the cooldown is 18 seconds, so effectively you only have 6 seconds of downtime, but when you use her burst, that's actually alleviated. Her burst is similar to her skill, but it actually does an insanely high amount of physical damage when you use it. As you can see, the skill damage right here, it's 545% at level 8. That is really high, and it can still get much higher. As you can see, I have C6, I have extra talents here. This can get up to talent level 13, and this skill damage will be absurdly high. On top of that, by default, it actually is going to give you a level 3 shield off the bat. So what you can do is you can use her elemental skill shield, and when that expires, you can use her elemental burst to dish out probably the second highest physical damage in the game, second only to Rin Taicho's Amber, and you'll also get the shield back up, and then you can rotate back to your elemental skill again. Her passives are both really strong as well, but the best one is actually her cooking passive, which I know a lot of people think that that's not actually that good of an ability, but let me explain to you why this is actually very good. A lot of players, especially endgame players, stay away from food buffs because their units end up being built up really well, but for early players, this essentially saves you a bunch of resources on defense food, because as you guys know, it's really hard to level up all of these characters that you want to, especially when you're new to the game, and so you have to be really conservative with your resources. Even if they are only cooking resources, everything counts. So again, it's just going to save you a bunch of resources on defense food, which is going to buff Xinyan and probably Yaimiko. But on top of that, she actually has a very good utility of her charge attacks. Not only does she have very physical damage, her charge attacks are really great for breaking shields and some of the best for breaking shields in the entire game. Now, if you look at her constellations, obviously I have C6. I actually got C6 all free to play before I ever spent on Genshin Impact. And as you can see, Xinyan is actually very free to play friendly because she shows up on every banner. She just has a lot of things going for her that people overlook when they're talking about her. Okay, so now I want to talk about the next thing, which is going to be Xinyan's best build. So for me, right now, personally, I like to run Pale Flame and Bloodstained Chivalry, the 2-piece of each, because each one is going to give you 25% physical damage bonus, which is actually going to be the highest form of damage bonus you can get for a physical damage dealer. However, she's very versatile. You can use tons of different artifact sets on her. For example, if you wanted to go with a shield bot build, you could use Husk of Opulent Dreams to get a bunch of defense. If you wanted better shield uptime, you could actually use Thundering Fury. You can actually use 4-piece Gladiator's Nostalgia too. I'm pretty sure the wielder of this artifact set uses a sword, claymore, or polearm. It increases their normal attack damage by 35%. I'm pretty sure this is actually a mistranslation. It should be normal and charged attack, so I hope they actually fix this soon. You can actually use Blizzard Strayer on her in a freeze team because she's able to get that 40% crit rate every hit. You will run into times where you only get the 20% crit rate because of Shatter, but also Shatter is probably the strongest reaction. I actually don't remember. And then the other one I want to talk about is Heart of the Depths, because this one is actually super good. After using your elemental skill, it increases normal and charged attack damage by 30% for 15 seconds. So essentially, when you use her elemental skill, you can just use her charged attack and spin around and do a ton of damage. Overall, you could probably make an excuse for most of these sets, but these are the ones that I prefer to run. Right now, I'm just running Bloodstained and Pale Flame, but she's very, very flexible. For weapons though, if you're free to play, you should be either building White Blind or Prototype Archaic. Both of these are free to play craftable claymores, and they both work for her. You can use White Blind for shield, or you can use Archaic for damage. Now, I like to use Prototype Archaic because if you're getting hit, that's a skill issue, or you can actually just swipe for Ito's signature weapon, and that will actually cover both bases. You can also use Song of Broken Pines, Serpent Spine, probably this fish thing. She just has a lot of flexibility with her weapons as well, and overall, she's very free to play friendly. As far as teams go, these are actually really misunderstood as well. A lot of players feel like they can't build Xinyan in a ton of different ways because she has limited team synergy. Now, I'm going to show you guys why that's not the case. So the main reason people feel like Xinyan isn't that flexible is because she's a pyro unit that deals physical damage. Now, most physical damage dealers in the game want to use the superconductor reaction. This is basically when you combine cryo and electro, and what that's going to do is lower enemy resistance to physical damage. But because Xinyan is pyro, they feel like she can't use the superconductibility and that she's kind of a waste for physical characters. But if you just just pair her with the best Electro and the best Cryo unit in the game, she actually doesn't have any issues at all. For example, if you pair her with Raiden, she's gonna have constant Electro damage. And then for the best Cryo, you pair her with Eula. And with these characters, you can actually get a ton of synergy with Xinyan, because Raiden will be able to get Xinyan's burst up, and Eula does a ton of physical damage similar to Xinyan, but she's also the best Cryo. And then for the fourth slot, you can put someone like Goro in, because he actually buffs your team's defense, which will help Xinyan's shield get a little bit stronger. He can also be built to deal a ton of geo damage and create crystallized shards, which will actually help your team stay alive even more. Overall, Xinyan teams are super flexible, and this is probably my favorite one. Okay, so now I want to show you guys a completely free-to-play showcase with Xinyan. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually go find a boss, and we're going to one-shot it with Xinyan, just so I can show you guys how strong she is.